Hey everyone, welcome. I've never really done one of these things before, but this is going to be mainly talking about my server. I look over here because my server's over here, but it's going to be moved to the other room. And I just wanted to do an update, or more of a vlog than anything, of what I've been working on for the past few months, or what I've been doing more specifically the past few months. And everything started around my birthday in April with this. My brother gave me a Raspberry Pi 4 for my birthday, and it's one of the most amazing things ever, but it's also a gateway to servers. Little did I know. My original plan was to simply have my own cloud, right? Because I'm on this road to open source and be in control of all my data instead of other companies having my data and so on. So all started with this, and I just wanted to run Nextcloud on a Pi. And I went down the rabbit hole and I started putting Jellyfin onto here, comic book server, Comga, and a bunch of other containers in Docker, which I had to learn Docker, and it took me a while to learn Docker because I just wanted to get things running. I didn't really care about the configuration. I just copied pasted stuff, and little did I know about volumes and how to configure those things. But now I know, and Docker's pretty easy and simple to use now. So yeah, this started everything, and it's not gonna run all that very smoothly. Only one person could watch a movie at a time. I had a 4 terabytes attached to this, and it was getting really slow. It was getting hot. The fans on here, they weren't so great because they would just stop randomly, and I would try to fix it. It would be going, and then it'd make this really annoying sound I would have to sleep with. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning with it, or in the middle of the night. So yeah, the fans were not the best for this case. And now I've moved on. I've grown up. And I was first gonna do a full server rack, maybe a 12U, but I live in an apartment, and then energy costs, or like however much it's gonna cost, I think would be very expensive and not economical enough to just build. So I went with a micro ATX build, which I'll show pictures of it. I also show pictures of my Raspberry Pi 4 setup because it did have a UPS and it was cool. Not so cool, but I liked I liked when the power went out, everything was still running, and it gave me time to actually power down the Pi safely, so all my data is still there and nothing bad happens, and the internet was still up, and having a UPS is nice. And so I wanted to do a micro ATX build. I wanted to be cost efficient, and I didn't know what I wanted to run. I didn't know if I wanted to run Unraid, Proxmox, FreeNAS, or any other software you could use to run network attack storage, containers, and stuff like that. So I ended up using Proxmox because Proxmox is free and open source, and it also gives me access to hardware acceleration, which I have a spare 1060 to use. So I wanted to use hardware acceleration for Jellyfin. That way I could have other people connected to it, and we could have multiple transcodes at a time. But I'm running a 2700X, so I don't even need the GPU for transcodes. The 2700X is going to give me 48 transcodes, and I think that's fine. I don't really have that many people connected. It's just my house and my brother and a few friends, for that matter. And my internet might not even be up to speed for that many transcodes, but it's not like everyone's going to be connected all at once anyways. So it was quite a journey just picking out the parts, and I think if I were to do it again, I would have gone with a server rack and gotten used parts off eBay. I know there's some really good stores on eBay where you can buy server racks. So it's not really the best thing, that I went with all new parts. Also got a network switch, which is really nice to have a network switch, because now my router's in the other room, but I just run an Ethernet cable here and I connect them to my computer and my server, because I had a lot of problems with this server, like a lot. And one of the first things is that I had my 4 terabyte hard drive onto here, and I ended up choosing Proxmox, like as I said before. I didn't want to back up my data because I didn't have a 4 terabyte hard drive to back up my data. Sorry, I get hiccups. So I didn't back up my data, and now I'm heavily going with the 3-2-1 strategy. I'm gonna do my best to back up my data frequently. For real, this time I should have always done it, but I will now, because when I removed my hard drive from the Pi and moved it onto the Proxmox server, and I did a physical disk to KVM, everything was working fine. Like for a day, I saw all my files, I put it on a network text storage, I could see everything. But then on reboot, for some reason, whatever reason, I don't know what happened, it partitioned my drive and I lost everything. My personal files is what I care about more than the movies and stuff, of course. So I had to get that recovered, and now that sucks, because that was another waste of money, which I could have just bought an extra hard drive, save some time, and just not have lost my data. Another thing with Proxmox, and I think this is true for TrueNAS or FreeNAS and Unraid, is that you need a flash drive or an SSD to install the software, the operating system, onto it so it runs off that operating system. Now, I didn't know that, so I installed Proxmox, and then I found out I had to buy another SSD and had to wait longer. And this is all in 1 to 2 months, because I think I started in July getting the parts together, and it's still not done, because when I got my data recovered, they just sent me the hard drive. They sent me my old hard drive and the transfer drive, but the transfer drive is the incorrect one, so I just returned the other one, and now they're going to be sending the one I gave them, which was a 6 terabyte Iron Wolf hard drive, and it is pretty pricey, but I don't want to lose my data again. I have 2 of these 6 terabytes, and I'm going to run it in a RAID 1 configuration in Proxmox. Not sure how it's going to go. I'll update. Because configurations Proxmox, I'm still learning Proxmox. I've run some virtual machines and whatever. What I really want to do is pass through my SLI card into a virtual machine for TrueNAS, and that will give me access to my storage directly, and then I could configure it with TrueNAS, and then I'll live happily ever after. But no, there's always problems, especially when you're learning and doing things for the first time, because I want to transcode with my GPU. Although the CPU is fine, I want to transcode with my GPU. In order to do that, I have to buy another graphics card, which is going to be about $40. It's not too bad. And then I have to buy the dummy HDMIs in order to pass through the graphics card as well. But for now, I think the CPU is going to be more than plenty. Like I said, it's going to be 4 to 8 transcodes. But right now, the GPU is there just as dead weight. It's not doing anything. It's just there. So I feel bad that the GPU is just doing nothing. Or maybe I could swap out that GPU and put in the $40 one, and then I'll have a 1060 again, depending on how well the 27 X does the transcodes, and also depends on what other virtual machines I run, right? So there's a lot of learning. I want to think of another thing. Oh yeah, so the motherboard on this one is not the first motherboard I got. The first motherboard I got was a B550, and that was not the right one because it's not compatible with the 2700X. I had a lot of BIOS issues. It would shut down, and then it would also just random things would just shut down the server. So I returned that motherboard, bought a new motherboard, and this one I saw there was a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port on the back. So I was like, oh, I gotta get this one because it's gonna give me it's like a bit future proof. It gives me a little bit of faster speeds, and no. So Proxmox doesn't even support this motherboard's Ethernet port, which is the R8215, I believe. So what I had to do, I had to go buy a NIC card, network interface card. I just said card 2 times basically. And then I had to install that, and then I had to install the drivers for the R8215, which I believe is correct. And then I was able to remove the NIC and then finally use the motherboard Ethernet. So I had to do another purchase for that. And another problem was I had another one. I don't know what the other problem was. I think it was just those two problems, the motherboard and the NIC. And I also bought an H310 SLI card. It's the Dell one. And then I had to flash the firmware on it, which wasn't too bad. There's some pretty good YouTube videos on how to do that. And I believe that's it. The specs on... Oh no, that's not it. I'll get to specs once I save this. The RAM I have is 64 gigabytes, non-ECC, 3200 megahertz, but it does not run at that speed, and I'm pretty sure it's because my CPU is incompatible with that memory. So it's running at 2666 megahertz, which is fine, I guess. I ran memory test on the RAM, it's fine, but when I change it in the BIOS, it shuts off randomly as well, which could have been a problem on the last motherboard as well. And this one is a B450. And the specs on this is an AMD Ryzen 7 2700X 1060 6GB GPU, has 64 gigabytes of non-ECC RAM, has one 20 gigabyte SSD by Kingston for the boot drive, and then for memory I just pulled it off my Pi. It was a 256 gigabyte ADATA drive, and I have two 6 terabyte Ironwolf drives, which I should get soon to put into the server, and that should be it. Hopefully, we'll see. And then I also have a Be Quiet 750 or 850 watts fully modular power supply. And like I said, this whole PC in itself is expensive. Probably around the $800 to $1,000 off the top of my head, if I could think about it. And that's not the best price at all. A lot of these purchases were just done while I was building the server to get here. If I would have just known from the beginning, I would have gone with something used. And maybe in the future, that's what I'll do. I would really love to have a Proxmox server and a TrueNAS server. And that in itself, I think I'd be pretty happy We'll see. Only the future knows. I didn't even know I would get into this. I went from this to a Node 804, which is the case I'm using, in less than 6 months. So if the trend continues in 6 months, I'll have a whole server rack. Who knows? It'd be pretty fun to mess with. And then it also had something. That's something to say. Oh yeah, I should be getting a UPS for this build as well. The first UPS I got, it was only $40. It was APC one, which I think I like the products more because they have a pretty good warranty. So I really like that, and everything is bought new, like I said, and it's nice that everything has a warranty. So I should be getting a UPS for this server build as well, probably a beefier one. It'll be like 150 or something. These server things are not something you should get into if you care about your money, but I see it as kind of an investment or just a learning experience, if anything. And I enjoy this kind of stuff, even though if it stresses me out, I enjoy it. And at the end of the day, I get to make really cool stuff, like a Jellyfin server, Minecraft server, host my own cloud, and I'd say it's worth it. So that's for my update. That's it for my update. It's a mess, and I'll update you soon.